Shalom, Havarim. That was my water. So just an update for y'all. I'm always telling you guys what I'm drinking, more so than what I'm eating. But I always like to drink things that give me energy, mainly natural things, because I am anemic. And so, that can take some of my energy. But what I've started doing is I've started to put black strap molasses in my water with some lemon, some fresh squeezed lemon. And black strap molasses is a great source of iron. So it's all about iron and protein for me, amongst other things. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. It's so refreshing. It's very good. A little bit of sweetness without all the manufactured processed sugars. So yeah, it's good. Anyway, I hope y'all had a great day. I'm doing like a late little driving in the word, if you will, from work. And man, we haven't talked in a minute, right? It's been about a little over a week. And I've just been taking things in, chewing on the cud from the messages that, we've been going over in the live stream, and looking at some of your questions in the chat and having the Ruach just guide me as to what he wants me to address from my witness and my experience to you, and giving you just some encouragement, especially for you parents, everyone out there. Okay, everybody. But the parents, the single parents, and all parents in general. But I wanted to let you guys know about something that happened to me, a couple of things that happened to me fairly recently. A couple of months ago, I might have mentioned this briefly in a past video, I'm not sure, but I wanted to bring it up again here because this is going to tie in a lot to what I want to address with, you parents and your precious children. So the first thing is, a couple of months ago, I was outside of a grocery store, and this guy was out there with his wife, and we get that a lot here. I'm guessing it's in every city depending on where you live. But he had a petition that he was signing for the upcoming election on, legislation and upcoming local things that, he wanted to get your views on and everything. So he was out there with his wife. Now, his wife was very quiet, which was okay. It was kind of, I guess you just had to be there. But she was very quiet, barely saying anything to me. But anyway, me and my son, we walk out the grocery store. And I think I mentioned to you guys before, like, my son is not a social butterfly or a people person like me. Like, he don't play them games. He's like, no, mom. His whole thing is you can sit here and talk to them if you want, but I'll wait for you in the car. Or, he'll say, are you okay, mom? If not, I'm going to go ahead and go. But he's just not that. He has to really feel something really strong in his ruach for him to stick around and talk to you. Where I'm completely different. I'm like, we can talk all day long until the Ruach tells me to move on, and then I'm out of here. But the guy stopped me as we were coming out. So again, my son, he grabs the keys, and he's just like, oh, okay, Mom, I'm going to go ahead and put the groceries in the car, wait for you in the car. And and he was asking me about the petition or whatever, and I was like, okay, what it's about, and whatever it was about, I was all for it. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem. I'll sign the petition. And his wife was like, oh, you are so beautiful. And I was like, thank you so much. I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate that, compliment or something. I can't remember what I said. It's not important. And he says, yes, you are so beautiful. Your husband, is a very lucky man to have you. And I was like, well, I'm not married, but thank you so much for the compliment. And I was just going to keep it pushing, move on. And he was like, well, why didn't your husband want to stick around and sign the petition? And I was like, well, I just told you I'm not married. So who are you talking about? And he said, oh, that's not your husband? I was like, no, that's my son. Now, keep in mind, my son is 6'8". I'm 5'8". My son is 6'8". But because I'm mom, that means nothing to me. My son, he'll always, be a little to me because I don't care about his size. Like, I'm mom. But anyway, so the guy says, oh my gosh, he's very mature. I can tell he's a very mature young man. And he was talking to me all about his dad. And I said, oh, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Then he says, sister, no, mind you, I get real, I don't know, maybe it's the Ruach in me reminding me that I belong to the Mishpachah of Elohim and no one else. I don't claim to be everybody's sister. So as soon as I hear that, and that's a common thing in the black community for us to call each other brothers and sisters, whatever. I'm just so past that. But I was still nice. He said, sister, make sure you keep him in the family. That's what he said. And I was like, well, what family are you? What do you mean? He was like, well, make sure, you keep him with us, bringing one of us home. So I knew exactly what he meant. But just to play with him a little bit. And I wanted the Ruach to really, really do his job. I said, well, do you mean bring someone home like me? A woman or a girl that loves the Father, and that has a strong connection to the ancient paths of the Father and of the Bible, which is the way? Someone like that will love the Father and love him. Yes, I hope he does bring, that person home, her home. And he just looked at me, and his wife just looked at me, and she started to smile, but she still wasn't saying anything. She was just smiling at me. And he stared at me and was like, well, yeah, that too, but one of us, somebody black. And I was like, okay, so so you're saying that I should encourage my son or tell my son, don't worry about the spiritual aspects of my son's heart or his future potential mate's heart, just as long as she has a dark skin complexion, that he needs to bring her home? I was like, no, I don't teach him that, and I can't remember how the conversation went, but he was going on and on. He was very adamant and stuck in this belief system that he had. I mean, he started writing down his mentor and wanted to give me the information he had looked up and started quoting scriptures to me. And I was like, okay, I already see where this is going. But I politely exited from that conversation. And I was thinking to myself, and then as soon as I got in the car, I told my son about this exchange that had happened. And my son was just like, Mom, he was like, my son was like, I can spot him. Basically I'm paraphrasing, but my son was basically like, he could spot people like that. He was like, that's why I don't talk to people. But what I thought was that now if I had raised my son on the notion, which, believe me, I used to tell my son, I want you to find someone that looks like me. It'll be easier for you to deal with that person. You guys will have a similar background. No. But when I accepted my deliverance and my Father brought me out of all those, because what those are works of the enemy telling you that you don't need the Father. Elohim, please, he don't need to be involved in anything. You need to work it. You need to work it on how your family and your traditions will be. Forget about Elohim. Forget about him. But see, that is the state of the world today. And when we don't teach our children what we're learning, because that is the command. And that's one of the, is that the only command that the Father gives us parents? Is to teach his ways to our children? What they do after we teach them his way, after we teach them Elohim's way, what they do with that information And their relationship with the Father after that, that's none of our business. That's between Abba Yahweh and our children. But it is our responsibility, commanded by the Father, to teach our children so that it can stay with them. The word says it can stay with them when they're older. They won't lose sight of it, right? But if I had never did that, just think if my son didn't have that instilled in him and he would have ran across that man without me being there, right? How that could have turned, and how many young people get sucked into that mindset of having to work out their salvation and work out their life and work out what's going to happen with them and their family. It's scary, man. I'm telling you. It's so scary, but it's not a big deal when you have Yahweh, because he does it all. He does it all. I didn't tell my son, oh, go ahead and wait in the car. Let me deal with it. No. That was Abba. It's not my business. And see, this is what I wanted to encourage you all with children. No matter how old they get, the word does not say we stop being parents once our kids get 18. That's the world society. But the word, the Father, we are parents until we leave this earth. We have the responsibility of the gift that he gave us to take care of that. Because our children really are not ours anyway. They're his. They're Abba's, right? But we have a responsibility to protect them. To protect them. And that protection takes care of their ruach, that spiritual protection, teaching them the Father's ways. And he'll deal with everything else. Feeding them, clothing them, all of that through us will be taken care of for our children. And it'll be effortless because we're putting him first. Even when we think it might be a problem, it's really not, because he's going to take care of it. We can pray for our children. I know someone had asked the question, is it okay for us to pray for? Of course. Of course. If we're going to pray for our enemies, we're praying for people. If you're praying for people you don't know, of course you would pray for your children. You pray for your children, but you pray in eager expectation that the Father's will be done, not yours. Not yours. That was a lesson that Abba really had to teach me. How he works with my son, what he does through my son and for my son is none of my business. It's not my business. My job is to pray as Yeshua commanded me, that Abba's will be done. The Father's will be done. Here on earth in this life for his son, who is my son that he gave me, and confidence that I would take care of him. And we have to remember that, Abba knows the end from the beginning. It's really not our business. It's really not our business. We can have hopes and dreams for our children, which is great. I mean, I'm sure my mom, well, now I know she did because I'm a mother, prayed for me constantly growing up. Please, I have rebelled so many times. But Abba knows the end from the beginning. Her prayers weren't in vain. When she sent that palau up to the Father, he kept those because he knew the end from the beginning. And look at me now. I walk in the name of the Mighty One, my Elohim, Yahweh, just like you do. So there's no reason for you to be worried about your children. You pray for them and you let them see that you are their example, their first example besides Yeshua, of walking in Elohim. Now, does that mean that you are going to be a control freak and get on them about everything and make sure you read your Bible? No, because the Father doesn't do that with us, right? He gives us an opportunity. He presents this is the deliverance. This is my way. This is it, right? It's no force to it. And he disciplines us when we need to be disciplined. Why? Because he loves us. It's the same with our children. So yes, you pray for your children, but you walk so confidently and boldly and eager expectation that he's going to show up strong for you and your children, and you leave it there. You leave it there. And I know it's, everyone's testimony, everyone's witness is different. I know that my witness is different. You are not me, and I cannot be you. But one thing I know that works for me and will work for you, and we're all a work in progress, is that the Father never fails. Abba Yahweh never fails us, ever. And he said in his word, as long as we're walking in him, in righteousness, in Yeshua, in the Father, our children will reap the rewards, the blessings, the benefits of that, because they won't stray from it. They won't stray from it. They'll always come back to it. In Genesis, it reminds me, Eve, Genesis 4. Eve, she made it. She knew that this is Hawa. She knew Adam, and conceived and then birthed Cain. And the word says that she said, "Oh, this is a blessing by the help of Yahweh." Okay, which tells me as a mom that she just knew that maybe this is her firstborn after the fall, after they were kicked out of the garden. Maybe she felt that this is redemption, that Yahweh was going to use Cain to help bring them back to where they fell from. No. Why? Because it wasn't her business what Elohim was about to reveal. It's not our business. As long as we can remember that as parents, and I know, you guys, it is hard when it comes to children. Especially for mothers, when we have, grew them in our belly for 9 months and then had them and then have to release that. But it's such a humbling feeling. And not only that, it's good for your mind when you know that you can release and relax in Elohim. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful freedom in that. Period, point blank. It's a beautiful freedom because they're not ours anyway. I love you all. I had other things I wanted to say, but I'm going to cut it short because I'm going on, over 17 minutes. But I hope this has been a beraha for you all who are thinking of your children, those who are in Elohim, and those of your children who you think might not be in Elohim. You just never know how he's working. But regardless, remember, your children's salvation and how Abba is working with them and through them for his benefit, because his will is the only will that matters. That's none of your business. None of it. Okay? Pray for your children and expect Abba, Yahweh, to show up on time, his time. Shalom, you guys. I'll see you in the next one.